The story begins with a guy who from now on is going to live only for himself. School, abroad, school, graduation, school, and so on. He refuses to go to school again. At least, that's what he thought. The young man was riding a horse, falling under the bright rays of the sun, from which he had to squint his eyes. A man calls out to him, telling young Mr. Lihan that he should look ahead, because they are already in place. Opposite is a huge gate, and even further away is a huge castle. This is the best magic academy in the empire. AniWorld. Alrarlog says that he is very touched, because he did not think that an old knight like him would be able to help his master. As a result, the guy could not break his connection with the school, even in this life. Now the graduation has come, someone is happy, someone is given flowers, and others are just chatting. The brunette is hugged by a brown-haired man, congratulations on graduation, and saying that he doesn't even know how they managed to survive with such professors. Involuntarily, I remember the moment when one of the teachers suggests that he attend an optional hiking club every week, to which the guy replies that he clearly does not deserve to be a part of it. After another memory, they slip documents into his hands, wondering if he will have time to finish before the evening. Unable to refuse, the student agrees. Another flashback immediately pops up in my head. He and his friend are sitting at computers, having a snack, while the brown-haired man complains to him that for a week their stomach has not seen anything else but kimbap. Already in the present, an acquaintance says that this is true for all graduate students, but the brunette is really amazing. Although the latter begins to assert that there is nothing wrong with this, he just did everything possible on his part. A classmate shrugs off, blurting out that a friend fits perfectly into this life and he should study further. This is going too far. Heading home and crossing the pedestrian crossing, the guy convinces himself that he did everything in his power. He's not going to study anymore. Now you need to live for yourself and not be in a place like graduate school. Meanwhile, the driver of the truck, who was just heading to this pedestrian crossing, abruptly realizes that the brakes do not work. And here, as luck would have it, a graduate. The man shouts to get out of the way, but the brunette, apparently slightly lost in space, gets in the way like an idol, without even having time to realize how the bumper of the car demolishes the body completely. His studies and diploma, as a result, turned out to be a useless piece of paper, but the intention remained unshakable even after rebirth. His eyes snap open and he manages to look at his own children's pens. He remembers everything. Lihan Vardanez is the third son of the strongest magic house in the empire. Is this all real? The guy was reborn in another world as an aristocrat, and also the youngest son of a rich and influential family. Tears of joy come to the boy's eyes, because the hero thinks that he was awarded for attending graduate school in a previous life. Here's his chance to rest, but he was deeply mistaken. The first rule of the House of Vardanez is that the first son inherits everything. And what will happen to the middle and younger? Well, the rest of the sons themselves must determine their own path in life. Their swords collide in training. Alrarlog himself does not seem to believe that the young gentleman asked him to learn fencing, to which the latter replies that it will come in handy, and there were no better classes. Fortunately, the family supports all initiatives in education. The man offers him to take advantage of the experience gained and embark on the path of the sword, but the boy shrugs it off. He will become a magician since this path seems stable. A second later, the gray-haired man immediately grabs him by the shoulders, saying that he is insanely touched by his master's mind. With tears in his eyes, he explains this by saying that many noble children are too ambitious, but Lihan is a reasonable approach to planning the future. After completing graduate school, you begin to soberly assess reality. Everyone, from the Knight's Order to the Adventurers Guild and even to the Imperial family, is always happy to have able magicians. And this is an institution where talented magicians are trained. The greatest academy of magic in the empire. Erongard. The guy tells the knight that he will try to hold out here for a couple of years, but the man assures that he will succeed, especially since even the patriarch praised his talent. The younger son, of course, does not believe, since his brother did not allow him to practice magic, because it is dangerous for children, but he still thanks for empty words. Alrarlog walks away a little further along with the horses, saying that visitors and animals can't go any further, but then Vardanez notices a carriage moving forward, pushing everyone through, because the Duke's daughter is riding there, and the others have a prince of the empire at all, so no one plans to give way. Somehow too many people crowded together with the guards. Erongard is a place that you have to enter alone, but everything is wrong. At least, that's what the young man who sits next to the main character says. He's already shaking, which makes the guy ask if everything is okay. It turns out that everything is much simpler. A stranger simply cannot sleep without his servants. They are like air for him, and it will not work without them. Well, the nobles. The young man is clearly not happy with the fact that even slaves are accepted into the academy, so he will take advantage of his family's position to complain. I wonder what they'll say to him. But as soon as the latter approaches some employee, the latter is illuminated with a bright light, and then an apology is heard from the nobleman. A mind manipulation spell. And after all, the employee without any hesitation used it on a person with such a pedigree. So the rumors weren't lying. There are a lot of monsters here, and if you die, you will be buried in the mountains behind. Abruptly, the doors swing open and someone's voice is heard greeting future students, calling them Ironheads. Lehan notices a huge magical pressure and covers his face a little with his palms. Here he is, the rumored director. From such tension, everyone froze completely. The voice continues to tell that he asked everyone to come in one by one. But if they do not want to follow the rules, the carriages with horses immediately overturn, then he will force them to obey. Naturally, the loss of clothes or servants immediately causes panic among visitors, but the director is not going to stop, calling the students a flock of sheep and urging them to finally go inside. Vardanaz raises his head up and notices the skeleton's head, which is all glowing turquoise, continuing to yell at them to move. And so began his first day at AniWorld, the greatest academy of magic in the empire. And the premonition from this for some reason is not good at all. While the students are walking, many of them immediately begin to complain about such treatment from the outside. But our silent hero is called by name, and turning his head, the guy notices the girl, Ina Makin, who says that her house is also the house of magicians, like Lehan's. He is glad to meet her, but asks what she wants from him. The redhead replies that the Imperial Highness wishes to see him, and points in the direction of the blonde, who waves his hand affably to them. AniWorld has become a place for meetings and communication, and new acquaintances are already resolutely trying to establish connections on the very first day. But call him Imperial Highness. Isn't this too much? After all, the Emperor has more than 100 children. Even in the local family, everyone is only interested in the firstborn. The Emperor does not support his children in any way, so they are even worse off. And in crowded places, where there are a lot of children of great houses, like here, the Imperial family, it is even lower than the house of Ina Makina. Then why is she acting like this? The girl just distracts him from his thoughts, offering to go with her. From behind, some nerds start laughing at the fact that she is helping some unknown prince. At least it's better than making enemies, so the brunette agrees. The redhead rejoices at his answer, not forgetting to mention that he was the first to agree. Gainando, the 97th prince of the empire. Rumor has it that he may be 101. But the guy insists on the first digit. Obviously, he doesn't want to leave the top 100. And him. But then the blonde distracts the brunette, who at first did not listen to him, and then begins to say that one of the students rejected his offer. The prince is clearly very immature. Vardanaz expresses his assumption that the stranger simply does not know that Gainando is of Porphyrius blood. Seeing the questioning look, Lehan realizes that the interlocutor is not only immature, but also an idiot. This word means a significant person from a higher or prestigious class. Pleased with such a compliment, the prince still frowns and points towards the crowded people, saying that they refused his offer and are now talking to Adenarda, a beautiful blue-haired girl, the 44th princess of the empire. Unlike some people, she has elegance, and it is not surprising that people are attracted to her. The blonde offers him to deal with the girl, because the brunette is also handsome and well-built, but is refused since noble people do not poison others. How about a lesson instead of bullying? The answer is simple. The upper strata of society do not do this either. What should he do then? Lehan says that you should either forgive them or go and challenge them to a duel. Clearly frightened of the latter, the prince giggles nervously and says that they should not go that far, especially since he is so noble. He forgives these ignoramuses. When the brunette ruffles the blonde man's hair, they are noticed by Ina, who immediately approaches them and says that Vardanaz is amazing, since he managed to curb someone else's stubbornness, which she, as a relative, could not do. And only the guy is going to find out why the redhead cares so much about Gainando. But they are interrupted by the appearance of a huge skull, which menacingly asks the Ironheads about conversations. It's the same lick they saw at the entrance. His existence is the result of the efforts of a great magician who wanted to become undead and bypass death. Who would have thought that it would be the director? The latter decides to ask the students why he calls them Ironheads. Here Adenarda gives a voice, saying that the symbol of this year's newcomers is iron. He clearly pleases the girl when he says that he gives 10 points to her faculty. Naturally, there is no points system here, so if she wants to become a magician, then let her learn to distinguish truth from lies. But the symbol really is iron, a metal that changes depending on what is made of it. It is very valuable, and it can be used for different purposes, so it suits them. Many of the students immediately gasped enthusiastically, while the lick laughed loudly. You've been led again. The reason that metal is their symbol is that he has nothing in his head. Although the director mocks them, no one is able to answer him, because it is extremely difficult to even move in this dense magical energy. But the hero is used to this, so he manages to bend his arm at the elbow. Or maybe it's just the skull that reduced the pressure. Realizing his small mistake, the director really decides to ease the pressure on the students after a long journey, but makes a mental note to himself that Lihan can still move. He asks everyone to look at the left door, which immediately opens, and behind it there are huge tables filled with food to the brim. Many immediately rush inside, looking at a wide variety of dishes. Nando thanks for the food and just begins to cut the fish, as the food immediately dissolves. The director laughs again, calling them fools. Vardanaz himself has heard that when you become a lick, you lose some things. Apparently, their acquaintance lost too much. This academy is the cradle of magicians, and the strongest impulse in development is hunger. Things and loaves of bread and rice immediately fall on the students. This is their form and food. When the prince is about to be indignant, a skull immediately flies up to him, explaining that if the food seems disgusting to them, then it's worth studying magic and making it yourself. Do the shapes and sticks look like garbage? You need to use magic to create new ones. These are the rules of the academy. One of the nobles notices that he can take it all from the outside, but the lick immediately suppresses all subsequent thoughts on this topic. Beginners are not allowed to go outside and contact upperclassmen, and now they can be free. The skull dissolves in turquoise smoke. Does there really have to be a mad professor everywhere? Lian himself is well acquainted with this type of people, because in a previous life the professor of the neighboring laboratory had the same sparkle in his eyes. The brunette is immediately hailed by the blonde, indignant that he will not tolerate such an attitude in any way. And the food and clothes are really disgusting. But Vardanaz does not listen to him, chatting with himself that this place is definitely better than graduate school. Little is known about the Vardanaz house itself in society, all because they are completely absorbed in the study of magic and have never participated in public activities. Because of this, misunderstandings accumulate at their expense. Gainando continues to be indignant, but then tearfully asks the guy to come to him if there is an opportunity. I have to go to the dorm. Students are accepted to Airguard, regardless of their title, provided they have talent. However, in order to prevent conflicts between sensitive teenagers, the hostel was divided into 4 towers, according to the status of the residents. The Tower of the Arrogant Blue Dragon. Only people of high birth can enter there. Famous nobles, for example, the children of the Emperor and Lihan, will live here. The Tower of the Phoenix burning from the inside. Only those who have dedicated everything to the holy flame can enter there. This is a holy and righteous tower, where only priests from various religious orders can be located. The Tower of the Lightning Tearing White Tiger. Only those with the rage to defeat anything can enter there. In this tower live those who come from the houses of knights. These people are being trained to follow 2 paths, chivalry and magic. The Tower of the Black Turtle that sees the past and the future. Only the possessors of boundless patience can enter there. There are various people here, townspeople, servants, slaves, clowns, beggars, merchants, and new lower-class nobles. Unlike other dormitories, they are simply ignored because of their low position, so almost all newcomers are intimidated, but there are always exceptions. In Lihan's eyes, they are ideal business partners. The guy understands that you need to make friends with them, since the easiest way to make money is to run a business, and for this it is worth gaining experience. So he is going to approach the trio of teenagers, as someone's voice interrupts him. The stranger says that he does not understand at all why they took such low-grade people. How did this upstart dare to mock his future comrades? Vardanaz immediately puts the nobleman in his place, saying that only he is low-grade here, especially since they all left behind what they owned. But someone has forgotten about it and is now daring. Other guys immediately flock to a small verbal altercation, clearly proud of the brunette's similar behavior. Well, since the atmosphere has changed, then you can. But the hero does not even have time to turn around to potential partners, as several guys immediately shout that it is better not to approach the Vardanaz house at all and not look at it, because their patriarch is a dragon. What? According to rumors, their family originates from ancient spirits. Surprised by such a reaction, the guy decides to ask the woman who came up, does he look scary? The girl says no, and then adds that he showed the nobility characteristic of a nobleman. He didn't know yet how famous his family was. The prince runs up to them, who immediately accuses them of abandoning him. The brunette himself decides to continue the conversation about why the girl allows the blonde to behave like a child. She says it's all about his mother. We are shown a flashback where another little machina runs into the imperial banquet with a drink, and then accidentally stumbles and spills everything on the empress's dress. It looks like her house is over, but no, the woman quite calmly takes her in her arms and says that everything is fine and everyone is wrong, and then asks if she is hurt. And then the girl already tells that she is very rich and pays her a lot of money for being friendly with her son. Having heard about the band notes, he decides that he also needs to make friends with him. After that, they already find themselves in a huge territory, which is located behind the academy. There is a lake, a forest, and mountains. Apparently, the director was not joking, saying that they would have to get everything themselves. And it seems that if they go further, they will finally be able to get into their dorm. The hero even talks about it with the redhead. But why then everything? He raises his head, stunned to look up. What the hell? The building of the hostel, to be honest, looks absolutely miserable, and somehow not enough for so many people. The prince, of course, is not happy, because even his own servants live better, and here the nobles themselves were served this. The heroes are just starting to climb the stairs, but as soon as the brunette takes the next step, the whole world around abruptly disappears. There's not a soul around, absolutely nothing. What happened? He is abruptly greeted by a voice that comes out of nowhere and asks where he needs to go. As expected, the Magic Academy's dormitory is a magic tower. Lihan decides to ask where he can go at all. The voice, amazed by his quick adaptation, immediately replies that the only places available now are the brunette's private room and the Iron Rec room, exclusive for first-year students. It turns out that in the future it is possible to get to other places. The voice says yes, but it will be possible to get into one by knowing only the name, and to visit others you will have to know something beyond. But not now, because the director forbade it. The hero asks to simply move him into the room while some turquoise magic is entwining his own legs. Welcome, young magician. Already in his own home, Vardanez starts reading the book AniWorld. With the exception of key subjects, the rest of the classes can be taken to choose from. You can decide by trying everything out for a month. In the book itself there is even a quote from Asuganadals, the director: magicians are people in search of the principle of peace. Even if others offer help, everyone has to make a decision and choose their own personal path. As a result, everything is not so strict, much easier than graduate school. And the room has almost everything you need. That's only one. Lihan thought so. In any case, the rules are clear to him, so why not find out what classes others have signed up for? Already in the recreation room, the brunette runs into Anna, who wants to study alchemy because she has always been interested in the girl, and her dream is to establish her own workshop and supply products to the imperial family. Having heard from the guy that it is very profitable, she immediately offers him to work with her, but Lihan waves it off, saying that such a business is not easy and he needs to think. The alchemy industry in the empire is highly competitive, starting from the spread of bad rumors about competitors, ending with the monopolization of ingredients for the elixir. Countless guilds have fought for market share, so it's worth choosing something more stable. And what interests the hero himself? Something less competitive and easy to learn. His main goal is to become an imperial officer. Simply put, civil servants. The field is unimportant, grades and qualifications matter. But I think the enthusiastic Menkina would be upset if she hears something like that. Therefore, he replies that he will try to test everything within a month and make important decisions later. Then a blonde man runs into the room, shouting that he has a problem. It seems to him that there was a thief in the room, since there is nothing in it. They look at him dumbfounded, but in the end they agree. The next day, the guy reads about the knowledge of basic magic. This is the main subject in the first year, and also for each dormitory there is a time for lectures. However, what happened to everyone? Everyone around him looks like zombies with these bags under his eyes. The woman who appeared answers that they are just hungry and did not get enough sleep. Is it really that difficult for them, compared to his previous life? We see a flashback where Lihan, apparently, does not keep up with the time, and then tells a friend that there is no time for lunch. But he does not listen, shoving a bar into his hand, telling him to eat as soon as he gets the opportunity. And don't let him look at him like that, he eats the same thing. But he promises him a feast after all the work, and it's not even ramen. Just instant noodles and a triangular Kimball. This world is definitely better. They approach one of the doors as a group. It seems that this is from the audience, but as soon as a girl and a guy open it, they immediately scream in horror, and then they completely fall to the fifth point. What the hell? There should be their audience here, but inside, there is a troll. Trolls are very fierce and dangerous monsters, infamous even to aristocrats who care a lot about their safety. And yet, in their office there is a troll girl in completely ordinary clothes. She greets them and asks them to come inside as soon as possible. When everyone is seated, she introduces herself. Her name is Garcia Kim and she is a half-breed. Their fear is understandable to her, and Garcia hurries to reassure everyone that there are no people, at least until he gets really hungry. Of course, it was a joke, but the troll already had time to regret saying it. Well, it's worth starting the lecture, right? Most of them have never used magic because it is extremely dangerous, so only adults are allowed to use it. But since they are magic seeds that have received the title of Iron, Kim will explain to them the essence of magic and help determine what type they have a predisposition to. The path of a magician is difficult and dangerous, so the girl wants to become their compass. It turns out that not all local professors are like the director. Garcia decides to ask what magic is, to which he receives an answer from Eternata that this is what wizards use to change the world with their will. A good answer, but she decides to add that it also uses magical energy, mana, the fundamental power to change the world. Those who have entered the academy are talented enough to feel it and recognize it. But to use mana, you need something over. They must summon magical energy with their will and carefully weave it together to cast the spell. Also, many people think that this requires singing or speaking it, but their own willpower is much more important. Garcia said a lot, so why don't they try it themselves? She asks everyone to get up, get out their wands and collect magical energy. And while they are holding her, we need to imagine the light. Yana describes such a complex action as pulling the reins of a wild rushing horse. If you lose concentration, it will immediately dissipate. The troll also asks them to cast the spell light during this, and just a second later, her own wand is illuminated by a bright luminary. A spell can be anything that comes to mind, but it's easier to keep attention on a short word. Lehan understands the essence and tries it himself. For many, the wand is illuminated with light, but this is still not enough, and for Againando, the magical energy begins to act on its own. But at this moment, a troll uses a spell on him, saving him from subsequent injuries. She explains this by saying that magic can rebel if you lose control over it, but that's why the girl is here to protect them. Kim encourages them to try again. Second attempt. A third gave up. 2/3 are still trying. Privately, Garcia notices that this spell is quite simple, but it usually takes more than a month to master it, and the students have to cope on their own, so she won't tell them. Third attempt. Half have given up, half still keeps trying. Fourth attempt. Most have already given up. There are only 3 students left. Fifth attempt. There is 1 student left. Sixth attempt. Everyone is also 1 student. On the 7th attempt, Bardenez raises his hand and asks if he should continue at all. She is very surprised by this, because usually first-year students give up after the 5th attempt. Magical energy. In the East, some tribes call it Kai. Scientists who like to show off call it ether, and some stubborn priests call it divine energy. This phenomenon, bearing many names, is the source of the power of magicians. Since every time you cast a spell, you need to use it. It goes without saying that young novice magicians face a lack of energy. However, Lian himself does not look tired, despite the fact that he is trying for the 7th time. She asks him to introduce himself, and the fact that the brunette gave her a name, not a surname, won the favor of the professor, who saw a student who was not trying to stand out. The troll asks him to come forward before offering to give her a hand. As soon as they touch, the girl seems to be enveloped by a wave, which soon begins to turn into a whole sea, filling her lungs with water. But this did not happen in reality. A student immediately calls out to her, asking if everything is okay. She says it's just nothing. Meanwhile, the hero's friends are discussing whether it's worth saving him there, while Kim himself slightly takes the brunette aside and asks him to come to her office later, and then turns to the whole group, saying that they should not worry because the energy has run out. In the course of practice, its number will increase, and each time it will be possible to spend less. Also, sometimes a student full of enthusiasm can lose control and suffer, so you need to be careful. She just looks at the prince, who nods awkwardly, and then notices that she still does not eat people. The lecture is over for today. Already in her office, the brunette begins to ask why she called him to her, to which she replies that she learned about him before the lecture, from the director. From that psychopath, or what? She immediately calms him down, saying that there is nothing to worry about. Moreover, at first it may seem that the director has a little problem with the skull, but he is kind. The students don't know this, but Asu has a sharp eye for people. Every year he tells the professors about new students. About one lick said that you need to be careful with this beastman. He can repeatedly burn down the hostel. About another that she is a half-demon and you need to use holy magic more carefully with her. But about Lizin, he said that he had the qualities of a huge fool. This can be understood literally, but in the East there is an expression, what seems to be ignorance can be associated with wisdom. In fact, the director wanted to say that he saw in him the qualities through which he could succeed. And the troll wondered what kind of student this was, because she had huge expectations about Vardanas. But you can't tell him about it. When he calls out to her, she says that she called him because he has too much magical energy, which makes the guy exhale softly, not really understanding why then to call for a personal meeting. But Garcia explains he doesn't just have a lot more, but so much that she can't even imagine where its limit ends, which surprises the hero very much. The amount of magical energy is the deciding factor for a magician. If it is not enough, you have to use intricate ways to pull out more. The presence of a large amount of energy, in turn, frees from such restrictions. In other words, it speaks of a great talent. If the professor is telling the truth, then the guy has a rainbow road to the future. She notices that she feels sorry. Lihan immediately worries, starting to clarify whether it's bad. But no, it's something else. There's just too much of it, so she'll try to explain on a glass of water. As long as the water is enclosed in a vessel, it is easier to control. However, if you have to control the whole sea, it will be a bit difficult, right? That is, the complexity of controlling magical energy, which is the main one, in his case at an unreasonably high level. The guy immediately gets upset, but Garcia puts a special bracelet on his wrist. He absorbs magical energy and should help him at least a little, but the problem is still not solved, as simply as the student thinks. The decoration will help if the guy starts using a lot of spells to drain his energy. She also allows him to practice on his own, since nothing will happen if he uses the entire stock. The brunette certainly did not want such privileges. Now the future looks bleak. From now on, you need to keep all your grades on top. He decides to ask his friends if they have chosen their classes. Yana has not changed her choice and offers them to go with her, but Gainando laughs at her and calls her a fool, because only servants are engaged in alchemy. The girl, clenching her fists, asks Lian to step aside on the stairwell. Calling out to the blonde, she immediately strikes her opponent, knocking him out, shouting that he should not even dare to ask her for medicines if he ends up in the hospital. And even though Vardanas knew a little about fights, thanks to lessons from Alrarlog, and in his opinion, this blow was 10 over 10. On the way to learning basic alchemy, the hero still decides to ask if it is possible to beat the prince like that, to which he receives the answer that yes, if only to apologize tomorrow. It looks like this is not the first time. There are also a lot of students from different towers, especially from the Black Turtle. He doesn't care, but other people's views are alarming. Peasants usually have two ways to react to the appearance of a nobleman. They are either afraid because they do not want to get involved with him, or they demonstrate hostility. And if he himself behaves too friendly, then it can go sideways. They go out into the backyard, where a new professor calls out to them. After the Lick Director and Professor Half-Troll, it wouldn't be strange to see another quirk, but they are met by an ordinary dwarf. His name is Uagulm Gomdar. He says that they clearly had the idea that they were studying at such a majestic academy. But then why did they gather in this clearing, where there are not even desks? Naturally, he is answered by Eternata, who says that this is in order to feel the mana of nature and understand what powers are important for an alchemist. Wrong. Yuna and Lihan start discussing this before the latter loudly states that this is a great place to collect materials. Right? Professor Dade says that he is smart, while the brunette himself earns an incredulous look from the blue-haired girl. Just pointed a finger at the sky. If only she didn't start seeing him as a rival. The dwarf says that the real reason why they are here is that he will be able to teach them the most important things for alchemy. He is sure that the students believe that this requires an exceptional mind and the ability to control magic well. But this is far from reality. Arvijach tries to write it all down. The most important skill for an alchemist is collecting resources. What? Eternata calls out to the professor again, saying that resources can be created by themselves or ordered from others, so his statement is incorrect. And students start whispering from behind that their majesty is right, which just pisses the dwarf off. He calls the girl Ironhead and says that she knows nothing about the real world. She would definitely not be able to grow even 10% of the resources she needs herself, and those that she orders will be unsuitable. The reason alchemists travel with adventurers is because they are stupid asses when it comes to digging up herbs. They will ruin valuable specimens. But after a while, the man calms down and says that students should still know how to extract resources on their own. And if they can't, then they won't become alchemists. At the same moment, a leaf appears in the hands of the students, on which a plant is depicted. It is worth moving on to practice. Let them get it for him. There are a lot of unpleasant rumors floating around AniWorld, despite its prestige. The hero notices that this is a desecrated herb that is used for antidotes. Ina, it turns out, had already used it before admission. One of the gossips says that people die while learning magic. It is clear that magic is dangerous and incidents are inevitable, but it's a matter of insufficient preparation. Why are students being sent here? They notice the dark thicket of the forest. It would be quite dangerous to go there together, but the three of us are already easier. I wonder if someone from their tower is here. Lehan immediately suggests the candidacy of the princess, but the girl assumes that she has a very complex character. Although the guy refuses, saying that they will just collect herbs, but it looks like they are already too late. The blue-haired one has already managed to recruit a team for herself, in which there are even people from the Black Turtle, and she bypassed Vardanaz. Mankin assures that the girl was popular before admission. Other members of the imperial family know her because of her intelligence and talent. She is everyone's favorite star, so everyone follows her, regardless of her title. And for Gainando, of course, no. The brunette notices that those who found a team have already left and only the students from the Black Turtle remain. Even though they hate him, it's too dangerous to walk together, so they need someone capable to cover their weaknesses. Here the eye stumbles upon the emblem and then rises to the girl. Here she is, Nilla from the Tower of the Black Turtle, a dark elf and a member of the Shadow Watch, the patrol police of the northern part of the Empire. Shadow Watch is a group of experienced hunters and scouts who are located on the northern mountain range and know its territory like the back of their fingers. The elf, though, hears about such grass for the first time, but she is sure that she will find it without problems. The forest is like a playground for her. She was very surprised to see so many newcomers, but now it was her turn to prove herself. Neela is hailed by the main characters. The tavern presents itself as its home, and the guy is just a name. So the girl is a noblewoman, but then who is he? After asking what they want, she receives an offer to go with them to the mountains. Turning to them, the elf is clearly aggressive, asking what they really need and clenching her fists. All nobles are the same. They insult them by calling them savages, and even if they show indifference to them, they will complain about their mistreatment. So why would these two be different? The brunette explains that it is dangerous to walk alone. Suddenly a monster will appear, but the blonde immediately shakes her head, saying that she does not need their help. Having asked why, Vardanaz himself builds assumptions that a new acquaintance believes that they want to use her as bait, and then throw her. She is surprised that she was able to figure it out so quickly, so she says that she wants to go to the forest alone, but the hero does not believe her. Moreover, she cannot know what will happen there, but she needs to collect more resources and bring them. So he is sure that the elf is not stupid at all and understands that she cannot cope alone. Embarrassed, she blurts out that she will go with them, to which Lihan says that he knew that their new acquaintance was smart. It's worth going already. Their new acquaintance jumps from branch to branch, not worrying about anything at all. Hannah is surprised by such dexterity and asks a friend how he found out that she is a wonderful hunter. She has well-developed legs and calf muscles, and also has calluses on her palms, because she often uses onions. Such signs indicate its peculiarity. The elf even stops on one tree, listening and not understanding whether he really understood only by these signs. And yet, there is a strange aura hovering around him, as if he can read minds. Then the brunette says that she is just joking and realized this because she had a Shadow Watch badge on her belt. She already stumbles. The redhead suggests that they go together, but the elf is clearly not happy with this, before the guy reminds her that only a crow can distinguish herbs. So if something happens to her, they will have to solve this problem together. Then why do they need him? Nilla is a guide, Mankin is looking for herbs, and he is of no use. Realizing that it will not work to say that he uses a freebie, he says that he protects the girls. And let the huntress agree with him. She is more interested in why he lives in the Blue Tower if he looks like a knight. Lihan explains that he is not from the House of Knights at all, but from the House of Vardanaz, assuming that this is his chance to get closer. But the surprised and even horrifying reaction from the elf says the opposite. The blonde clearly drooped, not knowing that it is even possible to answer this, while the guy himself does not understand and decides to ask his girlfriend. She says that there are false rumors about all the houses of aristocrats, but his is a special case. What are they talking about? The patriarch of the House of Vardanaz is a dragon. During the incident with the crazed undead, he burned them to ashes with his fiery breath. His house is connected by blood with ancient spirits, which is why the family has incredible abilities, instead of losing emotions. The Vardanaces know no pity. The magicians of this house, who appeared to quell the riots, wiped the city off the face of the earth. Lehan is clearly amazed by this. Is it really their image of those who, if anything, will turn into monsters and sweep away everything in their path? Somehow unfair, because magicians should come to the rescue if something happens, so why only his house? Mankin tells him not to dwell on it. Even the elf herself notices that the gossip about emotions turned out to be false. So let the guy stop whining, otherwise they'll leave him. The elf jumps over with the help of a vine, and noticing something in the distance, suddenly stops and turns out to be next to the heroes, telling them to stop. She pushes aside the branches of some shrub and asks to look ahead. There are quite large footprints in front of them, but since they are not deep, it means that the animal specifically controls its strength in order to hide them. It looks like. But as soon as Nilia looks up at Anna, she immediately realizes that she is not interested at all, even though she tries to feign interest. The girl was distracted again and completely forgot that such things do not interest aristocrats. But on the other hand, Vardanez shows curiosity, who asks the huntress if she can find out something else from the tracks. Stunned by this, the blonde does not understand why he is interested, because he is from a great house and this is strange. But in any case, when you come across such traces, you should be careful. Not only does he have big claws, but it will be difficult to predict what kind of creature lives here. There is quite a diverse fauna around the school. The territory of Irregard is rich in magical energy, which affects the earth, so various types of monsters converge here. Of course, there are also monsters created during experiments and those who appeared from discarded elixirs. There are clearly security issues here. The elf suggests that they change their plan and follow the tracks, thus reducing the chance that they will be ambushed. Lehan even asks if she will be able to teach him to read footprints. She assures that it is not easy and he will most likely immediately give up. But the guy stands his ground, saying that if she teaches him, he will make every effort. With a mischievous smile, the girl replies that he should try. After some time of walking, Anna and the guys finally find the desecrated grass, but only 2 pieces. But it seems to her that they will quickly find another one, and since there is no one nearby, it is worth moving on. And as soon as she turns to her friends because they were silent, she freezes in horror. In front of them stood a huge boar, and not a simple one, judging by the fact that the brunette felt magical energy in him. The huntress says to be careful and warns that it is a monster. The animal stands in a stance, sticking out its huge tusks. The situation is dangerous, and since there is no other weapon, the guy decides to use a wand. Fortunately, its size can change at the request of the owner, so it is immediately transformed into a good spear. The elf also remembers that the brunette of their house of magicians, especially the best in the empire, which means that he probably already managed to learn a couple of spells. But he is a little unsure of his own abilities. Nilia warns that if he can't cope, then let him grab his red-haired girlfriend and run away from here as soon as possible, while she herself distracts the monster and takes him away. The heroes are flattered by such an act, while the huntress waves them off, saying that she does it because she can. Lehan thanks her and asks her to take care of him if something happens, while the boar is already coming from behind, opening its mouth wide. What kind of spell does he use to defeat him? When he was 10 years old, Alrarlog taught him, saying that although the sword is the king among other weapons, you should not rely only on it. The young master must master different weapons in order to be ready for any situation. And only those who have reached an understanding of the process can learn how to pour mana into weapons. This is called aura mode. But after learning the truth, the boy will be disappointed, since only a small number of gifted people can achieve this regime. Is it necessary to try so hard for the sake of aura? He just wants to become a magician and work in the office. Lehan tells his knight that he is sure that there is a point in training, because this is how he learns to protect himself. But in fact, he wants to rest more. Alrarlog, clearly full of pride for his master, who is not at all like other nobles, says that he will lead him to the very end so that he learns the aura, whatever it costs him. Another 100 swings. Wait, what? And already in reality, the guy swings and plunges the wand into someone else's open mouth, causing the boar to twitch for a while, and then completely falls dead to the ground. The girls are shocked. He just stabbed him with a stick. What about magic? Irregard's wand is very strong and can be used as a club. However, you can't defeat the boar monster like that. He did it because he subconsciously used mana. It's still not up to the level of aura mode, but the guy has started to get used to it in order to survive. The elf sticks her wand out of the animal, saying that Lehan managed to defeat him, while Anna falls to her knees completely from fatigue, clearly wanting this lesson to end as quickly as possible before they all hear some kind of screeching. Apparently, this is another boar. They walk towards the sound before finding an animal that is standing in front of the students. Lehan offers to watch them, even though the huntress herself is sure that they will cope. Among those who were standing, Aslan Dalkid volunteered to help. The Dalkid house is famous for its excellent and precise execution of work. If the House of Varden has played the role of advisor to the Emperor for many generations, then the House of Dalkidov, Chancellor and Treasurer. They are loyal people, and judging by someone else's stance, the guy studied fencing. Aslan warns that he can predict all the movements of the pig, so he can't beat him. Jerking sharply to the side, the green-haired man swings and hits the boar on the side, but he does not even twitch. It seems that his calculations were wrong, because a second later the monster hits him with its hind hoof and sends him on a long flight. The princess is the next to come out to protect the unfortunate, while the girls ask Vardanaz what they should do. Adenarda stands in front of a formidable animal, thinking that everything should work perfectly if she does everything as usual, especially if she calculates his movements and attacks then. But then the monster screams, writhes and falls dead, leaving everyone in shock because she didn't do anything. A brunette comes out from behind him, who says that he was lucky that the animal did not notice him, and Nilia is clearly pleased that her advice on what to approach from the downwind side came in handy. Her Highness notices the guy, but she calmly thanks him for his help, while the elf does not really understand why such a formality appeared between classmates. Evidently, they got carried away. The blue-haired woman says she will repay him, but Lihan is asking for a favor now. What could the guy need? And everything is quite simple. He wants the girl to recommend him a subject where it's easy to get good grades, because she has quite a lot of connections. At first, Adenarda does not understand what he wants to say by this. Is he interested in the class only for the sake of grades? Or maybe he's just testing her? And the princess is just about to answer when they are interrupted by a loud voice that threatens that she knows exactly which item will suit him. Who is it? The premonition is very disturbing. The familiar trembling in the body and the heated atmosphere. A voice calls out to Vardanaz, saying that this is an alchemy class. Such a feeling was only in the past of his life, when he met his professor. The dwarf, by the way, appears in front of him at this moment. But the guy quickly calms himself down, because now he is not the mature student that he was before. Lihan immediately replies with a smile that the lesson seemed good to him, if there is enough enthusiasm and enthusiasm. Gomdar says that he will make sure that these very qualities appear in the hero, despite the fact that he is trying to get away, saying that he has not tried other activities yet. On the sidelines, some students whisper that he has already become the teacher's favorite. No need to envy him for such an occasion. But the dwarf walks away, saying that the lesson is over and how sorry he is that the other groups did not face it. The beaten Aslan, who is being dragged by students, asks if the man sent them on purpose. Uagulm replies that of course, because the purpose of the lesson was to allow them to face different situations while they are looking for herbs. It doesn't matter if they caught a boar, avoided it, ran away or hid. An alchemist should be able to cope with such unexpected circumstances. The beaten students clearly do not share his judgments. Mainkin asks the gnome in frustration, is the grass really not needed? The three of them and her team went through a lot to find her. Domdar is surprised before happily runs up to the students and hugs them, saying that they pulled out a golden ticket. They seem to have a talent for alchemy, and he whispers to Lihan himself that he should definitely attend his classes. The guy sighs softly. It looks like he's a con. Lihan says that he will try, and in general, he has always dreamed of doing alchemy, completely resigned to reality. The dwarf notes for himself that there is something adult in the hero, because usually teenagers at his age behave more rebelliously. The man says that since he managed to defeat the boar and bring more grass, he will give him a special privilege. His hut is located near the forest, so the guy can come there whenever he wants this semester. The latter is confused, already starting to think that Uagulm is already going to load him with some work. But the dwarf himself is in a hurry to explain himself. What do they think first-year students want most of all? Food, of course. Exactly. The students look sullen and riots will begin within a week. Vardanaz himself remembers what kind of food they had to eat, and he, moreover, lives with the nobles. The hut is full of fresh ingredients for cooking, as well as spices and vegetables that Gomdar himself chose. It turns out that this is almost a free pass to the buffet. The guy immediately calls the professor the best while he shakes his hand, and the latter replies that he is a sycophant, but he likes it more and more. The students then call the gnome crazy and say that they will not come to his classes anymore, because he almost killed them. And although Lihan himself would like to complain about the strangeness of the school, but nothing will surprise him. Moreover, the most important thing for him now is to get food. Already near the hut, he and the girls are dragging a boar. Alrarlog taught him how to prepare meat for consumption, but it will be difficult for one. Here Ina distracts the brunette, offering him her help, while he notices that the redhead does not look well. She says she can handle it, but won't he share a little with her? Immediately, the elf gives her voice, saying that they are nobles and probably do not know what to do. She is hailed by a guy who later also offers to taste meat with them. Nilla agrees and is going to show them what a real hunter is capable of. She is definitely a professional in this, and Ina comes from a house where they know how to handle various materials. He was doubly lucky with them. Soon the professor comes up with a bag where the tools are stored, so it's worth getting started. At some point, the blonde is distracted, realizing that the guy is much better than she thought from the very beginning. Did they really teach such things in his house? The brunette, meanwhile, gives orders after skinning. Cut the meat into pieces and hang it on branches. Do not throw out the intestines, because you can make sausages out of them. He doesn't know how long this damn life will last, so he needs to take care of long-term supplies. The man also notices that the hero processes the meat with fire, which undoubtedly impresses him. No matter how good the weather is, meat can still easily deteriorate, so smoke treatment is an excellent solution. It's amazing how Lehan was able to go so far in 3 days of study. Works with meat like a pro. Jurgel never ceases to be surprised by them. But then a rumbling sounds from his own stomach, and Vardanez politely asks about the desire to eat. The dwarf says he is a little hungry before the student asks him for bread and butter. They cook everything in a frying pan, and the professor brings everything with him. You can start eating. Moreover, they got a special bonus from Gamdar, jam. All the characters eat quite a lot, praising the taste of food. Well-cooked meat, sweet jam, rich, oiled bread. A peaceful, quiet river, new friends. The third day passed in one breath. They ate, drank, and laughed their heads off. After that, everything was put in a bag, in which, as Mainkin reported, there was a lot of unprocessed meat left. Nothing else will fit in them, so what should I do with it? The elf sitting behind offers to share them with friends in the tower. The guy and the redhead exchange glances before turning around and saying that selling meat is a great idea. Most of the students from the blue tower have a lot of money, so it won't be a big problem. Nobles don't need handouts. Are all aristocrats like that? Likhan's motto is plow like a horse to live in prosperity. The motto of the company is save every coin for the workshop. So they are different from others, but Nilia could not know about it. Do they really want to sell everything? The rich even offer her to join them, but she refuses, saying that she will give her friends just like that. Although the redhead says that friendship is temporary and coins are eternal. What are they to see? Somewhere away from this little skirmish, the professor grins. They have both talent and passion, but they are like those from whom you should expect trouble. Jurgelm sits down by a tree, continuing to think. He bets that they will make the teachers' heads ache even more.